Hey guys, how are you doing? So we're doing a live with Kitab Club today. It was supposed to start at 10, but
Hi,
due to
Mehak.
Instagram and the glitches, just happy it's going on live now.
Hi, Mehak. Can you see
Hey
me
Neha.
now?
Yeah, I can. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, Neha. Thank God.
Finally,
Just
we were able
finally
to
work.
start. The glitch was,
Absolutely,
but
absolutely.
yeah, I'm
40
glad it
people have
started.
joined now. Can't believe this. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
awesome.
amazing. All right. So, Mehak Goyal is a computer science engineer and a startup founder. So, I would first like to talk to you about about your educational qualification and the startup founder that you are.
Right. So science. I'm a computer science engineer. I did my master's in management from Imperial College London. Immediately after the course, I started my first startup, which was a luxury lighting startup. I used to import lighting from Europe and sell in India. I managed to get it up to a scale where I was doing a really good business. I started in Chandigarh, that's where I'm based. Grew it up to Punjab and Delhi NCR as well. Unfortunately, what happened was I had a freak injury due to which I had to go on bed rest for about 6 months. And I had to close the startup. I didn't have a co-founder working with me in the startup. So I closed the startup and then started reading and writing poetry at that time. That's how the book came about to be.
Okay. So, when you started, how did this thought came to your mind that, okay, I want to write?
I don't think I started writing because I wanted to write a book. I think it was more of I was at the lowest point in my life. I just had to shut my startup. I went through a really bad breakup. I was on bed rest. I literally couldn't move even 5 steps. It was that bad. So I feel it was the lowest point in my life in terms of health, emotionally, and even my startup wise. So I turned to poetry at that time because I felt that this will help me, find something and make me happy. I have always been a voracious reader, so whether it be fiction or non-fiction, you can see the bookshelf behind me. I've
Yes,
read hundreds of
yes.
books. Uh, Poetry reached me at that time because fiction and non-fiction just weren't cutting it for me. I needed those quick boosters to lift my mood and make me feel happy and love myself. So I think poetry came to me at the right time. That's when I understood the actual power of poetry. For a fiction book, you have to read the entire book to feel happy. Oh my God, finally I completed this book, right? Even for a non-fiction, you have to read at least one chapter. But I feel, poetry, even just a small metro stop from one station to another, it will change your life, I feel. At least for that day, at least for that moment.
Wow.
And that's why I love poetry.
Wow, that's actually what, I have felt these days. So I never used to read poetry, but this year, before I read this book, Failure to Make Round Rotis, I actually read five more poetry books, and then this book came to me. And while I was reading the book, this question kept, coming to me that usually, like whenever you're thinking about writing, or it is always like we need to write a story. So nobody thinks of poetry as such, or is it just me who thinks like that? That poetry is more of emotional. I can't tell a story properly. So how was it difficult for you, or it just came naturally to you?
I think it came naturally. I fell in love with poetry at that time and even writing. I do make it a point to invest a certain time and effort in every poem that I write, because I feel that
Hmm.
every poem has a journey of itself. But having said that, every poem that you see in the book has been written, at least 1 to 2 months and has at least 30 to 40 pages of writing, and that gets condensed to the poem you see in the book today.
Oh, is it? Oh
Yeah.
my God, that's a
Yeah.
long process.
Absolutely. So, so how it works with me is that, I start with a starting point, and I have a couple of ideas in mind of what the end could be. Then I start linking them in as many combinations as possible. And the control freak that I am, I then again go back to the starting and the ending and try to think of any other combination possible. So that's why it takes a lot of time. And then again, thinking in terms of how the reader is going to evaluate this poem, right? The beauty of a poem is that it can be evaluated or thought of in different ways, right? Something that I could have written about heartbreak could be about just a friendship break or break with somebody else as well. It completely depends on which frame of mind you read it in, right? I think that is the absolute beauty of poetry that cannot be replicated in a fiction or a non-fiction. And I just keep thinking and imagining, oh, if what if this was bold, or what if this was italics, or what if the line break was somewhere else. So again, at least 40-50 pages pass till I reach the finalized version. And then also as a writer, I feel you're never happy with your work, and you're always like, oh, if only I could do this one thing. So I
So
think that
actually, the book
that's the
consists
thing.
of micro stories.
Absolutely. That was the intention while writing it, and even starting with the title, right? Failure to make round rotis. I wanted that to be a story in itself, because I feel we as women are subjected to it endlessly. Unfortunately, our worth is defined by the roundness of our rotis or by the ability how well we can cook. I wanted to change the narrative. It is about time, right? So, hence the title and hence this book.
Okay. So, like my next question is that, apart from what was, you were at a very low in your life that time, you had your startup was not, you had to stop it, and you were in a breakup. So, that was
Yeah,
what was probably, it just triggered, and you wanted to write and to come out of that phase. But,
absolutely.
if we, look at the poetry, the kind of poetry is there. So were there any instances behind, behind writing such poetry? Why is it so women centric? And like, why is it so hard hitting? How did that happen?
So I feel there again, there could be two answers to this question. There was a volcano of emotions inside me, which erupted on paper. I've always wanted to be a writer. My main goal in life was to earn enough money by the time I'm 40 or 50, and then start writing my own book, novel, or whatever it was. Like, I just wanted to relax and then be like, okay, this is my writing phase, and I am going to be a writer for sure. But sometimes things happen early for a reason, right? So I read a lot of poetry online, offline, got as many books as I could. I used to finish one book in a day, keep rereading it and again and again. And what I found magical about poetry is that, every word, for the kind of poets that I was reading, I used to experiment a lot with Indian contemporary poets, from a Tishani Doshi to an Arundhati Subramaniam. And I realized, this is such a magical place where people, I don't know, I mean, they have a block in their head that they don't want to read poetry. But once you dive into this, right, this world is so magical. And thankfully, there's so many
Absolutely.
great spoken word poets today, and even contemporary poets. I think Westland just posted today that they are coming out a book with Priya. So, I mean, couldn't be happier. I just went to the Bangalore Poetry Festival, where it was just a festival about poetry. So I feel that we are getting the recognition, or poetry is getting the recognition that it deserves, but slowly and steadily is the way.
So that's good to know. And I think, yeah, I have also dived into the world of poetry very recently, and I've realized how intense the emotions are, and how good it
Mhm.
is to read and feel those emotions. So, yeah. So, okay, talking about some shows or, some movies that you have seen and you felt that these are very regressive when it comes to women. Can you throw some light on that?
Absolutely. So I really liked the show Made in Heaven this time. I think it had, brought up a lot of interesting issues. One of my favorite shows is called Fleabag, and it has the most feminist vibe I've ever seen out there. I love it. It's hilarious. It's dark. It's comedy. It's full of punches. I hope like my book, but these are the kind of shows that I like. A show that I really don't like is Indian matchmaking and Seema Taparia. For obvious reasons, I feel that I have a whole chapter in my book about Indian matchmaking. And I feel that we are at a point, at least today in this society, where this needs to stop. Right, there are different expectations. I wouldn't say for just one gender, for both the genders involved. Right, the men are supposed to be the breadwinners and the women are supposed to take care of the home, and we need to put a pause to that and rethink about why we're doing this. Whereas marriage is something that I feel it is a beautiful partnership between two people, and that is what it should be. Right?
Yeah. So
What
actually,
are
when you
your thoughts
said
on
that,
Indian matchmaking?
oh, I totally agree with you. And I really think it's a very, very regressive show. It triggers a lot of emotions in me. And I feel like, this show is, it's not what it should be. So while you said this, I actually had put a pen over here because this is the poem. This is what was said when he fell in love, and what was said when she fell in love. These were some of my
Mhm.
favorites. His requirements for
Oh,
bride, and I love what you've done to his requirements for groom. So that's a mystery, I will say. It was lovely, and yeah. So
so
I
funnily enough,
actually
right, Neha? Sorry, please.
no, continue,
Please
continue.
go ahead. Funnily
So yeah, actually when I
enough,
saw this,
sorry. Instagram is crazy. Yeah.
yeah. So when I saw this, I thought, what is this a misprint? Then I realized, what am I reading? And I said, okay, I get it now.
So for this specific poem, right, I get at least one message a day on Instagram. Am I looking at a misprint or is this done on purpose? And it is so much fun to answer this question because this is the only blank page in the book. And
Yeah.
I just say it's not a misprint, or sometimes I just get really evil and I say, what do you think? So it's very interesting to see people respond to it in so many different ways. What is really motivating for me as well, that a lot of men have also come up to me and said they loved the poetry collection. I think even at the festivals or even at a book launch, right, wherever I go to a Bombay or a Bangalore or even a Delhi, I sign enough number of books for men and women. So that makes me really happy and it just warms my heart to no extent.
Great. So this is about the good part of, how people have responded to the book. Were there any such messages, people who were, who felt that, no, they had issues with the book? Were there such instances also?
Um, Instances with the book, unfortunately, those haven't been reported, or I haven't heard anybody say anything negative about the book. Just in terms of, oh, maybe you could have dive deep into a self love or something, but not something as having problems with the book so far. So it's been a relatively, I'm gonna say, a happier journey for me.
No, I
But
meant
they
to
do
say that.
have. Sorry, did I
No, I
break
meant to
off in the
say
middle?
that, you've taken up some very relevant issues and which are very women centric. So
Yes.
sometimes, men, or I would say females who are, elder females in the house, they might feel that, oh, this is not the kind of thing that happens. So, that kind of a reaction from people.
Fortunately not. I think people, after reading the title, Failure to Make Round Rotis, people who don't think it's who do think that it's a failure, or who do think that it's deplorable that you can't make round rotis, will never pick up this book thanks to the title. So I just made sure that whoever associates to the title would only pick up the book. Having said that, I do put up a lot of Instagram reels where there's this one trend that I'm doing right now, and I ask everybody to contribute to it as well. Failure to make round rotis, but success at XYZ, right? And I get a lot of hate comments on that. It's not even funny. And people are just like, oh, roti nahi banani aati hai to kya karegi life mein tu apni? तेरे से शादी कौन करेगा? इन लड़कियों का ही डिवोर्स होता है. And
Oh
things
my
like, या आ गए फिर फेमिनिस्ट अपने ख्यालों के साथ and things like this. And to a point, I think for the first couple of times, it really hurt me, because that wasn't my intention at all, right? All I'm saying is kudos to the people who can make round rotis, and huge round of applause. It is not easy. But to the people who cannot, it should also be celebrated, the same way as, if you can make round rotis is celebrated. So this is just, again,
very true.
even the title that I'm saying, right? It is just an instance in celebrating failure to make round rotis. And you should have the choice to do the things that you want to do. Maybe follow your career, follow your passion, dreams, and that's all I want women to do and fight for, I guess.
Very true. So, Mehak, talking about your future plans, do you want to write more poetry, or do you want to dive into some other genre?
No, I'll stick to poetry for sure. I think once a poet, always a poet. I don't think. And this book is done incredibly well, right? It's just been 2 months since the launch of the book, and I've been on back-to-back trips in various states, and it's doing incredibly well for a debut poet, right? Just to get it
Yeah.
published, I think was a big deal in itself. Generally, maximum 1 to 2 poetry books come out a year of the top 5 publishers, or the big 5 as we call them. And this is Juggernaut's first ever poetry book. So I hopefully will come out with another poetry book next year with a stronger tagline that everybody is
Wow.
just, super excited.
Well, I'm totally looking forward to it. So I would like to request all the viewers to definitely pick up this book. You will definitely connect with one or two of the poems for sure. And you will see that how, the world is around you for women. So yes, and I had a lovely time talking to you, Mehak. And okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, am I
Thanks
audible?
so
Yeah.
much, Neha. It was lovely to you as well.
And
Congratulations on
finally,
creating this
after
amazing club. Yeah, finally this happened. Super happy.
yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Neha. Thank you. Great talking to you.
Same here.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining this. Hi to everybody who's joined this video. Just a small request. I'm doing a giveaway in association with Bound of Failure to Make Round Rotis. So you have a chance to win a free copy of this best-selling poetry book. All you have to do is answer or complete the sentence in the comments. Failure to make round rotis, but success at, and it could be as simple as failure to make round rotis, but success at getting a PhD. Failure to make round rotis, but success at happiness. Do complete the answers, and the 10 best answers will get a free copy of my book, Failure to Make Round Rotis. So many interesting answers are pouring in. Can't wait to read all of them. And thanks again for joining, guys.